Alright, so now this time we'll be looking at a game called, well, I guess technically this time we're doing things a little bit differently. This is a game day, but I'm taking this, which is called The Alchemist, which in all technicality is not intended as a game, but I think it has a large potential to offer something for creating games around this idea. So I'll be taking a look at it, demoing it a little bit, and then give my thoughts and feedback about how we can make a game from some of the ideas involved in this. So I hope you'll join me for that. I'll see you on the other side. And this is a relatively straightforward little setup here. It's The Alchemist, that's the booklet. The actual box cover is this. And this is the booklet that comes in the center of it, and it has essentially the four elements. It's the fire is the actions you should take, air is the idea you should keep in mind, water is the emotion you will encounter, and the earth is the next stage of your process. And for each one of these books there's a die, and they're color-coded to match their element, and you roll the die and you open up the booklet to the page, and it has a very kind of tarot card or astrology type reading on each of those pages, and it kind of details the process of matching each one of these. If you've ever had those books as a kid where it's like you can put the head of a ostrich on the body of a hippopotamus kind of thing, it's that sort of thing, but it's a combination of those tarot card astrology type meanings that'll lead you to something further as a concept of what to do for whatever question you're asking, or in the case of a story, the story progress that you want to make with these. Alright, and so with that in mind, that's why I want to take this off into describing its potential applications to story writing or gameplay. So I'll see you there. So we'll be looking at The Alchemist. This is, I mean, it's really meant for sort of fortune telling kind of application, but like so many of those types of things, they can be very versatile. I definitely rate this about a 6.4 out of 7.1, mainly because I'm using it not as intended, so I can't really give it credit for all of the aspects that I'm using it for. But I do like it as an idea. I also studied enough of the actual history of alchemy to know that it's a little rough on some of its conception, but having said that, it has some great ideas for potential uses and applications for creative uses, gaming or writing, and we'll get right into this. This is a great way of developing a setting where you can flip modular pieces and the roles influence which ones, it randomizes them so that, you know, that'll tell you which card to flip to, and that'll tell you this part of the history of the setting you're working in to frame it up properly for you. And so it's a good way of developing settings. This could be pretty good for sorting out the overall course of a story. So not just the setting, but you know, the story involves the action you should take, the idea you should keep in mind, the emotions you will encounter, and how that finishes things up, so that what the next phase of life in that world will be like. And that's, I mean, that's exactly what each of these little booklets is. And which ones you flip over frame up the narrative, so you could generate stories with something like this. I can see you using this as a model for a chart for flaws and archetypes that would help you develop characters, either heroes, villains, supporting characters, cast. Even something as simple as if you go into a tavern in a fantasy setting, the barkeep behind the bar, he has a story, and that story affects how he's going to interact with the characters. And it'll show if your characters interact with him in a way that touches on the depth of who that person is. It creates a deeper and richer setting for them to work in. It's not just a tool for creating settings and story going forward and character types, but it's also possible, if your character has a traumatic moment in their history, you can chart one out with this. It gives you that kind of sense of origin to the character. It's not just this person pops out whole cloth out of just the stats that you're using in a game, or because you need him for that story, him or her for that story. You can flip up a kind of history and make it, what was their childhood like? Who are their friends? Do they still exist? And it may lead you to ideas of, like, if you come across an idea of a lost friend as you suss out an idea from these, that friend may appear later in the story and help carry the storyline forward. I actually am kind of interested in the idea of potentially seeing if this is something you could use maybe to make a kind of single player role-playing game. You could do a game where the events are sort of decided by rolling the dice and then flipping over to the page of what happens at those locations, and maybe have a map location with set spots where you land on those spots is when you roll a die and a random event occurs. So you can pick your direction, travel out, and when you hit a marker point, roll and flip, and you'll get an event. Something I think is super valuable for writing in this is, if you've ever been writing and you've hit a point where the characters or the story has sort of veered from your plan, and not in a bad way, where like the direction it's going now seems like a good direction, but you hit a wall and you don't know how to carry the story to, you used to have an idea of where you wanted to end up, but the direction it's going is interesting, you just don't know where it's going to end up now. Using something like this as an insight into the kind of sometimes seemingly random thought patterns that we all do on a daily basis that affect our choices and where we go in life. So being able to say, like, your character's trapped in a position that's far more interesting than what you originally thought, but you don't know how they're going to get out, there you go. It's going to give you he comes up with a brilliant plan, or he does something crazy that just happens to work, and it sets you on a new course that tells you where you're going to end up and what to do. And I think it's a valuable tool, because we have a lot of tools that tell you how to build a whole story, how to make characters, but you don't have a whole lot of things to help you when you have a character and a setting and a desired outcome, but you've kind of had to reassess your outline halfway through. How do you get through that? And this could be a useful tool for that. So there's that. I know it wasn't really technically a game, but it has gaming potential and it has writing potential. So I thought I definitely should share that with you.